Welcome back to the program. We're joined now by Representative Tom McClintock. He's a Republican from California and a member of the Budget Committee and Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration, Integrity, Security, and Enforcement. Welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
You voted for yesterday's continuing resolution.
I did.
Tell me why.
Well, I don't like CRs, but I like this one. And the reason is because it gives us the time to finish the work that DOGE has started. And gives the president added flexibility in managing the nation's resources. In 4 words, in DOGE we trust.
What are you hearing on the Senate side? Do you have any friends on that side? What are they telling you?
I can't read minds, and I haven't talked to any of them, so I have no insight on that other than I would hate to be Chuck Schumer right now. If the Democrats block this and force a shutdown, they're going to be in the same position that Republicans were during the Obama shutdown. I was there. That was not pleasant, and it didn't last very long before the public had enough of it.
The Education Department has announced that it is laying off about half of its workforce. What's your reaction to that?
Well, old-fashioned. I believe that if a dollar that is not spent in the classroom is a dollar wasted. You believe that money's not being spent in the classroom? No, I think a lot of it is spent on bureaucracy, on a lot of useless programs. Put that money directly in the classroom. You know, we had a much, much better school system when teachers were in charge of their classrooms, when principals were in charge of their teachers, and when school boards were in charge of their principals. That system worked and worked very well. As power has devolved first to state capitals and then to Washington, our schools have deteriorated dramatically. I think we need to ask a very simple question. Has the quality of our public education in America increased with the Department of Education or declined? And the answer is screaming at us. It's declined. It's declined rather dramatically. Clearly, the Department of Education in Washington is not helping. I think it's actually hurting.
You said on the House floor last month, quote, "Hell hath no fury like the deep state scorned." That's become obvious from the over-the-top hysterics directed against Elon Musk as he turns over bureaucratic rocks and shines a light on what has been going on beneath them. A lot of Mr. Musk's critics, it's not about wanting to save money, it's about how he's going about doing it. Do you believe that he has been taking a hatchet or a scalpel to government cutting?
Well, I think he's been doing what's necessary to bring our spending back in line. Remember, we're now at a point in our history where all of our discretionary spending, that's every department of the government except for entitlements and interest, is borrowed. Every dollar of it and then some. The interest on the debt that we have now run up, just renting the money we've already spent, is more than we spend on the entire defense budget of this nation. That is completely unsustainable, and it requires huge remedies. Not incremental steps at this point. And that's exactly what Elon Musk and DOGE are accomplishing. He thinks he can save $1 trillion over a year with his current inquiries. I think that that's probably reasonable, and I think it's absolutely essential. History is screaming this warning at us. The countries that bankrupt themselves aren't around very long, because before you can provide for the common defense or promote the general welfare, you have to be able to pay for it. And the ability of this country to do so is coming into grave question because of years of reckless and out-of-control spending and the amount of waste, just sheer infuriating waste that they are discovering is enormous. I mean, he reported just the other day that there were 3,100 people who, according to the Social Security Administration, are over 115 years old, who have active Social Security accounts, who took out SBA loans amounting to $330 million. You know how much of that money's been paid back of those SBA loans taken out by people over 115 years old? Nothing. America has been robbed blind by these bureaucrats and these reckless spenders, and Elon Musk's work is absolutely essential if we're going to save our country.
Congressman, do you have any of your constituents in your district that have been laid off as a result of DOGE?
Oh, yes, yes.
About how many?
Well, in Yosemite Park, where they're having protests and telling us that this is going to mean the extinction of species and tourists locked in bathrooms. We took a look at these huge cuts in the Yosemite staff. Turns out 10 probationary employees out of a winter full-time workforce of over nearly 500.
Are those the only federal employees that have been laid off in your district?
Well, then there were another 15 or so that were early retirements. I'm speaking now of Yosemite Valley. Look, we employ far too many people doing far too little, and that's become very apparent. I mean, basically what we have is a new boss who's come in. He's brought in an auditor. The auditor calls in the staff and says, "I'd like to see your expense account receipts." And the staff goes berserk. And he says, and while we're at it, I'd like to know what you do for the company. And they freak out. Well,
So you believe
what does that tell you about what's been going on?
You believe everybody that's been laid off has been laid off for cause. In other words, they were not performing or were not showing up.
No, I think that there are an enormous amount of useless positions. Well, you talk about not showing up. We asked Yosemite Parks Management, well, how many of your employees are still working at home? They couldn't tell us. But we do know that in 2023, 34% of National Park Service employees were working from home. What does that tell you?
If you'd like to join our conversation with Representative McClintock, you can do so. Our lines are Democrats, 202-748-8000, Republicans, 202-748-8001, and Independents, 202-748-8002. This is an article in CBS News with the headline, California Representative Tom McClintock cancels some office hours in wake of Trump policy protests. Can you tell us what's going on with that?
These are staff office hours. I have the western slope of the Sierras. We've got a lot of small towns spread out throughout the mountains. So instead of people coming into our office, our staff goes out and holds meetings with folks who are having troubles with various bureaucracies, VA, Social Security, and the like. Within the last few weeks, these meetings have been disrupted by protesters, which isn't fair to the people who are coming in to try to seek assistance, and it's not fair to the staff and the abuse that they've taken. So I decided that it was best to suspend those until tempers cool.
All right, let's talk to callers. Here's Linwood in Hyattsville, Maryland, Independent Line. Good morning.
Yes, good morning to all. First of all, I'd like to ask Mr. McClintock, with the Democrats, they're kind of in a precarious position, as you've indicated earlier, but aren't they in a better position with this current impending CR rather than being in a position where they would perhaps give, in the tradition of the budgets giving the president an annual budget or for a greater period of time? And I have a follow-up comment after that.
I don't think so, because we've been through that. I was on the other side of that issue many years ago, and it's simply not a sustainable position. The Democrats for years have told us that a government shutdown is the end of the world, and now they're saying they're quite okay with causing one. That's going to be a hard case to make to the American people.
Okay, thank you very much. And as well as I'm a former federal government employee, and when you mention performance behavior for a cause primarily, which is what you said, I was one of those people that were terminated. And I worked right there in the epicenter of the situation in Washington, D.C., in law enforcement. And I blew the whistle because there were high-profile murders. Alan Sennett, Erica Smith, 9-year-old girl out of Silver Spring, and her dad. Cases were botched. And I had the full thrust of the agency primarily to come down on me. And there is that web within Washington, D.C., in the law enforcement community, which is born out of the United States Attorney's Office, because there's a pipeline for the AUAs to become judges, to get nominations for federal agency heads, and et cetera. And the situation is this here. I proposed termination of an employee that embezzled over 64 times. They told me give her a wash. Okay, that was part of the basis of my termination, because I could not terminate her, allegedly. And currently she's in the United States Attorney's Office as a prosecutor and has been there for years, among the other corruptible things. So in that regard, there needs to be a purging. There needs to be a cleansing. and my case should be evaluated out of court services and offender supervision agency. And the president can do just that expeditiously because it's an independent executive branch agency born out of the Government Improvement and Government Reform and Self-Improvement Act for Washington, D.C.
All right, Linwood.
Well, you know, I agree with you completely. I had dinner the other night with a group of Judiciary Committee members with Kash Patel, the new FBI director, and he spoke about how they're opening up all of the misconduct that's been going on. He's pledging absolute transparency. And I asked him on the record, what was the thing that has most shocked you so far about taking over as FBI director? And he says, you know, I have been shocked at how angry some of my subordinates have become as they learn about these kind of developments that have been hushed up all these years. So I think you're going to see some very big improvements over at the FBI and within the Justice Department as the corruption is rooted out and the politicization of our law enforcement agencies is dialed back.
Here is Jim in California, Maryland, Republican.
Hello, yes, I'm calling to talk about the continuing resolution and stuff. I just watched Speaker Johnson on another network, and he said how inefficient the government is. Well, the most inefficient place in government is the Congress. You guys get nothing done up there. You can't pass a budget. When was the last time you passed a budget? If it's up to me, if you had not passed the budget by June 30th of the year, you would stay in session 10 hours a day, 7 days a week until you had a budget passed. You guys sit up there, you do nothing. You're never there. You come in on Mondays and leave on Fridays. You know, you can smile all you want to smile.
All right. Let's get a response, Jim.
I was smiling because I was recalling the chorus line from 1776 where John Adams is complaining about exactly the same thing. Twiddle, piddle, and resolve, nothing's ever solved. You know, our deliberative process is very messy, and it was specifically designed for a big food fight every time a decision was made. The founders did not want these decisions being made lightly or easily. So we have a very complex process. It requires a great deal of talk. The only purpose of that building is to talk out our differences, and that takes a lot of time, and it's very frustrating. But after a fashion, it works. As Churchill said, many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe, and democracy is by far the worst, except for all the others that we've tried from time to time. But having said all that, you're singing my song. We have a budget process. When that budget process is used properly and as intended, it works. We balanced 4 budgets with Newt Gingrich leading the House and under Bill Clinton's administration because we followed that budget process. We haven't done that since, and I have been beating the drums on that for some time now. I sit on the Budget Committee. I think we're going to see a return to that process over the next year. Certainly that's what I am pushing for. We have a good process. It does work when it's applied. We haven't applied it because the decisions are really, really hard. But that's, we're in times now that demand really hard decisions.
Do you agree with Jim's suggestion to stay in session until you get it done?
Yeah.
Steve in Stark, Florida, Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. McClintock. Got a comment with a couple of suggestions. First off, I hope that CR fails in the Senate because it's horrible.
What do you say is horrible?
It's not a clean CR, sir.
Okay.
You want to?
Do you agree with that?
$1 billion from D.C. You want to cut $23 billion from the VA. That's not a clean CR.
Hold on, Steve.
Well, it does slightly reduce spending, not nearly as much as I'd like to see it reduced, but it gives the president the time he needs to complete the DOGE process and the flexibility to The president is charged with the responsibility to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. He can't do that if he can't open the books, look how the money's being spent, determine whether it's being spent efficiently and according to law, and stop it when it's not. The CR gives us the time now for that process to unfold, and it's desperately needed. So For that reason alone, I think the CR is absolutely essential. And by the way, the alternative is you will see a shutdown of the government caused by Democrats who told us for years that that's the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Steve, what do you think of that?
I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I just want to make make a suggestion, and I'll go. How about raising the cap on Social Security? The $168,000 cap is ridiculous. Raise it to about $10 million, and get rid of this idea of a $4.5 trillion tax cut. We can't afford it. Thank you, sir. Well,
first of all, they keep talking about a tax cut, but what's actually facing us is a massive tax increase. If we do nothing, a massive tax increase will take effect. It will amount to about $1,500 of additional income taxes for a family earning $75,000. I think that would be devastating to our economy. We're not talking about tax cuts right now, although there will be tax cuts involved because the president is very serious about no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security benefits. And by the way, millionaires and billionaires don't work for tips, and I don't think they care very much about their Social Security check. This is very much a tax reform that is vital to the middle class of our country. And at a time like this, I think is very important. It is true. If you cut taxes but don't cut spending, you haven't really cut taxes. Whenever government spends $1, it's already decided to pay for it in only one of three ways. Either we tax it now, which reduces your current standard of living. We borrow it now, which taxes your future income and runs up huge interest costs and crowds out capital that would otherwise be available to loan to consumers. Or we pay for it through inflating the currency. All of those are bad. They all stem from excessive spending, and that's at the core of the administration's efforts to repair.
And how do you suggest that those extra taxes are paid for? What do you want to cut specifically?
Well, I mean, you can start with hundreds of billions of dollars of grants and subsidies. With respect to
subsidies to who?
Subsidies to everything, everything,
including farmers.
Absolutely, absolutely. The beauty of our free market system is consumers vote every day with every dollar they spend on what the economy is going to produce, who's going to produce it, and what they're willing to pay for it. Subsidies literally stuff that ballot box, and they substitute consumer decisions with political decisions. And those are two very different things. Subsidies not only cost us hundreds of billions of dollars a year, but they distort the natural flow of capital that would otherwise go to its highest and best use according to the decisions that every consumer makes every time they spend $1. So get rid of those. Get rid of the grants, too. I mean, this business of just throwing money at folks and telling them, well, do something good with it. It seems to me if the government needs a good or a service that it can't provide itself, it needs to send out an RFP, award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, and then hold that contractor to the terms of that contract. And one other thing, the other thing we see a lot of grants going for are local projects of every conceivable kind. That's where congressional earmarks are so damaging. Again, it seems to me that if a project exclusively benefits a local community, that project should be paid for exclusively by the local community. We should not be robbing St. Petersburg to pay St. Paul. There is no reason that Pocatello taxpayers should be paying for sidewalks in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Congressman, the caller also asked about lifting the cap on Social Security. Are you in favor of that?
Well, there are basically three knobs you can turn on Social Security. You can either increase taxes, which is what he's proposing. You can decrease benefits, or you can adjust the retirement age, as was done.
And what are you in favor of?
As done at the beginning of the Reagan administration. I'm in favor of increasing the retirement age. When Social Security was established, the retirement age was 65. I believe the average lifespan for an American was 63. So you can
What would
see
you-
how that
what would
you
you-
can see how that worked.
Yeah, what would you
That's-
change it to?
Well, I don't know. I don't know the actuarial numbers. My understanding is it would only be a few. Again, this would apply. This would not apply to those at or near retirement age. This would apply to people entering the workforce. And as we did in the 1980s, the retirement age was gradually increased from 65 to 67 over a period of decades, so that those new workers just entering the workforce could make their retirement calculations based on that, and preserve that system for all.
Here's Dennis in Olmsted Falls, Ohio, Republican. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning. My question is about Social Security. We had a local station here in Cleveland that did a story on a man that was in his 70s that received a letter from Social Security saying that he owes back Social Security payments of $14,000, that he has to pay that back. Now, how is a man or person going to come up with $14,000 and live on something like that if that's all they're getting to live on? Now, they said that they're going to have to either take 100% of his monthly Social Security payment, or they're going to eliminate a month's payment every so often. Now, how's a person supposed to live on that? If that's all they have to live on is Social Security.
Well, yeah, but but remember, that was an overpayment that he wasn't entitled to in the first place. And if that is going to be forgiven, that comes out of the benefits available to Social Security recipients across the country. I mean, the system right now is on a collision course with insolvency. That's going to mean, I think, about a 20% reduction in everybody's Social Security checks to pay for all this. And again, this is why, when DOGE discovers that there are millions and millions of people, over 115, who have active Social Security accounts, that doesn't mean they're all getting paid Social Security benefits, although there was a 2023 audit that found 44,000 dead people were getting Social Security payments. But it's what they use those numbers for all sorts of other frauds, such as SBA loans, which we discussed earlier. But, again, that guy's in a difficult position. I understand that, but that's money to which he was not entitled in the first place. And, my advice is work it out.
Shoshana is a Democrat in Monroe City, Missouri. Good morning.
Good morning. My question is that I would like to know what fund the DOGE employees are getting paid out of. And from what I researched online, quite a few of the employees are making over 6 figures in pay. And also, I would like to know, is it being addressed? Elon Musk has several contracts within the government. And also, are those programs being cut, or how are you all having oversight over the programs that he's getting paid if he's doing the cuts?
Well, I can tell you this. Tesla received a lot of government subsidies. I brought up the issue of subsidies and grants, just as I discussed on this show, when Elon Musk appeared before a meeting of our Republican conference, and he was in agreement that that was wasteful. So I think he's kept a very open mind on that. With respect to the people he's bringing into the government, these are highly technically educated and talented individuals who are literally finding hundreds of billions of dollars of waste in the federal government. Again, he thinks that they'll locate $1 trillion, and a lot of that requires comparing various databases throughout the federal government. That requires enormous technical expertise. So frankly, $100,000 for one of these people who are locating hundreds of billions of dollars of waste, I think they're underpaid. And
as far as oversight of what Elon Musk is doing and DOGE in particular, how much do you think Congress should be involved in that? How much has been done so far?
Well, the Congress does have a very important oversight function, but I have to ask the question, how has that been doing? We wouldn't be finding this kind of waste if that oversight function were being discharged adequately. This is really no different than when Ronald Reagan brought in J. Peter Grace to form the Grace Commission to look for waste. They found quite a bit and were able to reduce government spending, at least relative to GDP, as a result of
But
the
at that
Grace
time,
Commission.
that individual didn't have government contracts. That was making him personally wealthy, which
I'm
is
not entirely sure that's the case. But
with Elon Musk having government contracts.
Well, no, the J. Peter Grace didn't do work with.
But
the
in
government
this
too,
case,
from time to
we
time.
do know that Elon Musk has contracts with SpaceX and with Tesla and with Starlink. So are you confident that he will recuse himself, that he will not try to make himself personally more wealthy?
I do. He is. First of all, I think that his service to the government has actually cost him an enormous amount of money. I mean, the politicization of the marketplace, all of the vandalism and attacks on Tesla dealerships. I don't think he's made a lot of money in government. My guess is he's lost a lot of money, but he's doing this because he understands that, as Lincoln once said, this is the last best hope of mankind on this earth. And our generation is either going to nobly save or meanly lose it. And don't forget, he's working under the authority of the president, who in turn is working under the authority of the American people.
Here is James in Collins, Mississippi, Independent Line.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. How you doing, Mr. Tom?
Good, thanks.
Sir, first of all, I want to say this. Do you agree? Y'all, let me know when you're gonna cut me off. Do you agree that you gave this man, this man from South Africa, all this power? Do you agree that he need to do the same thing to every senator, the House and the representatives? Should he do a strong investigation on every politician, every one of you guys? Will the president allow him to do that? Second of all, you got a person that's not a legal citizen in the United States of America, and they are going through all the intelligence. These young people got all the information that they ever need about America, and no one knows anything about Moss. I don't even know what country. I know it's South Africa. I want to know what has he done in his own country, his own people, because you all allow a man to come in from America and go into the second highest office and go through everything of the United States of America and say he's going to cut the budget. That is, something is wrong with that, man. You all don't realize what you just did.
So James, let's go ahead and give him a chance to respond, okay?
And James, first of all, I find myself somewhat disgusted by that line of reasoning. First of all, Elon Musk has been a citizen of the United States, naturalized for, I think, over 20 years now. He's a citizen by choice. We've always argued that America is a nation of immigrants. It's built on legal immigration. The Democrats, over the last 4 years, have allowed 8 million illegal immigrants into our country, people who have broken our laws to get here, and are now costing taxpayers $160 billion a year to support. And yet that same party that proclaimed how important illegal immigration is now attacks a legal immigrant who has come to this country, produced thousands and thousands of jobs for Americans, who has contributed mightily to this economy, and has now put all of that on the line in order to come and work for this elected president to root out waste and corruption within the government. I think he has done a tremendous service to our nation, and I with all due respect, I find myself disgusted by your line of reasoning.
All right, Representative Tom McClintock, a Republican of California. Thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.